Hello everyone, welcome to KPIAS UPSC Universe. I am Sowjanya, Faculty of Current Affairs. In this video, we're going to discuss one important article from the Hindu today. So the article that we're going to discuss today is Supreme Court issues notice to center on Delhi Ordinance implicates LG in case. So here we are going to discuss about this particular article. So why is it in news? The Supreme Court has recently agreed to hear on July 17th an interim plea made by the Delhi government seeking a stay of Lieutenant Governor Vicky Saxena's executive order firing 437 independent consultants of Delhi Legislative Assembly. So this is the issue basically, and this is why it is in news today. So here we are going to discuss about this issue between the elected government of Delhi and the LG. So there has been a tussle between the elected government of Delhi and LG since past few months, and we are going to discuss about what is this particular issue. And here we have an important concept, that is National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Ordinance 2023. So since this ordinance is in news today, in this particular article we are going to discuss the basics about this particular ordinance, what all provisions are present in this ordinance, and we are going to also discuss about one important article of the constitution, that is 239AA. So coming to the syllabus relevance, in terms of prelims, it comes under Indian polity and governance, and in terms of mains, it comes under general studies 2, functions and responsibilities of the union and states, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure, devolution of powers and finances up to local levels and challenges therein. So this is what is our syllabus relevance. For mains, it comes under GS2. So coming to today's prelims practice question. Part 7 of the Constitution, consisting of Articles 239 to 241, deals with the Union Territories. So this is our first statement, and our second statement is 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1991 furnished a unique status to the Union Territory of Delhi. So here we have to identify the correct statement. So whenever we are given statement-based questions, we have to be careful whether the question is asking us regarding correct statement or incorrect statements. So here the correct answer is B, 2 only, because here it is part 8. So the part 8 of the Constitution deals with this. So under part 8, articles 239 to 241. So though we have a lot of articles in our constitution, we have some important articles which are important from examination point of view, and especially before the exam, 1.5 to 2 years before the exam, whichever related articles are in news, that would be even more important from examination point of view. So here you have to remember this part 8, articles 239 to 241, they deal with the union territories, right? So union territories in India, they are administered by the president, as we know. So this would be done by an administrator appointed by the president. So the administrator, whoever is there for this union territories, that administrator is not elected. That person would be a representative of the president. So according to these Part 8 articles of the Constitution, these union territories would be administered by the president, who will appoint this a representative of the president, right? So there would be an administrator. This administrator is not elected. So do remember, this administrator is not elected. That person would be a representative of the President of India. And is Article 239AA, it holds that the power and control over services, this should be vested in the elected government. So whatever elected government that we have in the union territory, that government should hold the power and control over the services. So we'll discuss in detail about this particular article and also about the ordinance in detail in this particular video. So for now, remember these details about this particular article 239AA and the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1991. So do remember the article number and the year. So the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1991, this has provided a unique status or a special status to the Union Territory of Delhi. So it has also given that administrator of Delhi was redesignated as LG, and it also created a legislative assembly and a council of ministers for Delhi. So you have to remember the number of this constitutional amendment, that is 69th Constitutional Amendment Act, and the year 1991, and the provisions that are provided by this particular amendment, that is Administrator of Delhi was designated as Lieutenant Governor, that is LG, and it was also created a Legislative Assembly for Delhi and Council of Ministers for Delhi. So these are the details that you have to remember as far as this question is concerned. And in terms of mains, so as we have also already discussed many a times, previous year questions are very important for us. So whenever you're going through a particular article of any newspaper that you follow, you have to go through the previous year questions, be it prelims or mains, because only when you go through the previous year questions, you will get to know the pattern of questions, and also you'll get an idea how questions can be framed on a particular topic. So coming to the mains, we already had a similar question back in 2016. So the question is, discuss the essentials of 69th Constitutional Amendment Act and anomalies, if any, that had led to recent reported conflicts between the selected representatives and institution of Lieutenant Governor in the administration of Delhi. So as far as 2016, at that time when this question was asked, at that time there was recently reported conflicts between the elected representatives and the LG, right? So at that time this question was given, so you have to be very thorough with the current affairs, right? So when we have mains, before mains, if we have such issues that were happening, definitely questions can be asked on that particular topic. So do you think that this will give rise to a new trend in the functioning of Indian federal politics? So this was the question that was asked. So first of all, you have to introduce your answer with the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1991. So the provisions of this particular amendment, what all things were added by this particular amendment, and you have to also explain the recent issues that are happened, because the question is basically on the recently reported conflicts at that particular time when the question was asked. You have to give a brief about what was basically the issue that has happened and the way forward for that particular conflict. And coming to today's mains practice question, what do you think are the issues with the National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Ordinance 2023? Discuss the possible consequences of the ordinance. So here in today's article, we have this ordinance in news, that is NCT of Delhi Amendment Ordinance 2023. So as far as this question is concerned, you have to give what are the issues associated with this particular ordinance and the possible consequences of this particular ordinance. So we'll discuss in detail about this. So coming to the ordinance, first of all, you have to introduce this ordinance. When was it promulgated? So coming to the promulgation of the ordinance, the government of the National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Ordinance 2023, it was promulgated by the President in May 2023. So this is recent development that we have. So this is a pretty recent development. So you have to be definitely thorough with this ordinance. So in May 2023, this was promulgated by the President. So why was it promulgated? So it is to provide for a comprehensive scheme of administration of services in Delhi. So why? This is the reason. So this is to provide a comprehensive scheme of administration of services in Delhi. So the ordinance came after the Supreme Court handed over the control of services in Delhi, excluding these three. So police, public order and land. So these three were excluded. So except these, the Supreme Court, it has handed over the control of services except these three to the elected government. So basically the issue is between the elected government and the LG, right? So you have to first understand the issues between these two. So what happens is Supreme Court, whatever services are present in the Delhi, so those services in Delhi, the control over these services, it was given to the elected government, right? But not all services except this police, public order and land, right? So except these three remaining services control over those services was given to the elected government by the Supreme Court. And after this, this ordinance it was promulgated by the president in May 2023. So what is present in this particular ordinance? Let's have a look at it. So coming to about the ordinance seeks to set up National Capital Civil Service Authority. So whenever question is asked, you have to definitely mention terms like these: National Capital Civil Services Authority. So this ordinance seeks to set up this particular body. So this is for the transfer of and disciplinary proceedings against Group A officers from services in the National Capital Territory of Delhi. So in the NCT of Delhi, whoever Group A officers are present, if we have to go for a transfer of these officers or to take any disciplinary action against these officers, we have to set up a National Capital Civil Services Authority. This is one thing that was provided by this particular ordinance. So it seeks to set up this particular authority. So why this authority? As we have discussed, for the Group A officers of NCT of Delhi in terms of their transfer or to take any disciplinary action against these officers, this authority would be set up. And the issuance of ordinance, it empowers the LG of Delhi with control over services, thereby challenging the elected government's authority in matters of officials transferring and posting. So after this ordinance was issued, this empowers the LG of Delhi for the control over these services. So whatever services we have, the control over these services, it was given to the LG. So this challenges the authority of the elected government, right? So in terms of the transfer of the officials or in terms of the posting of the officials, this power was given to LG. So this definitely challenges the authority of the elected government in these cases. And this development raises significant constitutional apprehensions regarding the delicate balance of power between elected government and lieutenant governor. So this is definitely a very sensitive issue. There was a sensitive balance of power. It has to be maintained between the elected government and the lieutenant governor, right? So definitely this development, it raises a significant constitutional apprehensions. So what would happen to the balance of power? It should not completely tilt to any side. A balance of power should be maintained between the elected government and the lieutenant governor. So coming to the issues with the ordinance, so we have seen the mains practice question. It is basically regarding the issues with the ordinance of 2023. So first of all, you have to give your introduction to the ordinance. When was it promulgated? What is basically the basic provisions of the ordinance? And then you have to bring about the issues with the ordinance. So coming to the first issue, power struggle. As we have discussed, elected government and lieutenant governor. The entire tussle is between the elected government and the lieutenant governor, right? So the issue is between these two and there should be a balance of power between these two. So the first and foremost issue that you can mention here in your answer would be the power struggle. So the ordinance has led to a power struggle between the elected government and the lieutenant governor. The elected government claims that this particular ordinance that was issued, it undermines their authority and violates their constitution. So definitely here we have two parties, you can say. One is the elected government on one side and the lieutenant governor on the other side. So basically we have to maintain a balance of power between these two. So after this ordinance was issued, what does this elected government say? It says that it is undermining our authority for the control over the services. Our authority, it is being undermined, and also it is a violation of the constitution. So this is what our elected government says. So what about the lieutenant governor? Lieutenant governor argues that the ordinance is necessary to ensure proper governance in Delhi. So elected government says no and lieutenant governor says yes, right? So ordinance is these elected government, it is against this provision, and lieutenant governor says no, this provision is necessary for the smooth functioning of the governance and also to ensure proper governance in Delhi. So this is our first issue, that is a power struggle. Second would be constitutional issues. So elected government claims that this ordinance violates the constitution, which gives them the power to make appointments and transfer of officials. So what does elected government says? The constitution gave them the authority. So what authority was given by the constitution to the elected government? For transfer of officials and also for the appointment of officials, we are given the authority by the constitution. This is what is argued by the elected government. So what does lieutenant governor says? The lieutenant governor's increased powers are a violation of the principles of federalism which is enshrined in the constitution. So whatever principles of federalism are enshrined in our constitution has some principles of federalism, right? So those are violated by this ordinance according to the elected government. So this is a second issue, that is constitutional issue. Third issue that you can mention is principle of triple chain of accountability. So in May 2023, Supreme Court explicitly recognized this by formulating the concept of triple chain of accountability. So these kinds of terms have to be definitely mentioned in your answer. This adds more weight to your mains answers, right? So when you have some phrases like these, please do mention this in your answers. So here you can mention triple chain of accountability. So what is this triple chain of accountability? It is basically integral to representative democracy. So let's have a look at what is this triple chain of accountability. So the civil servants that we have, they are accountable to the cabinet, right? So the accountability of civil services, it would be the civil servants accountability would be to the cabinet. So the cabinet, it would be accountable to the legislature or the legislative assembly, and the legislative assembly, it is accountable to the electorate. So this is what is a triple chain of accountability. So the civil servants that we have, these people are accountable to the cabinet is accountable to the legislature, and the legislature is accountable to the electorate periodically. So this is what is a triple chain of accountability. So any action that severs this triple chain of accountability, this fundamentally undermines the core constitutional principle of representative government, which is at the bedrock of our democracy. So in our democracy, what is the basic principle or the bedrock of democracy in our country? That would be a representative government. In India, if we see in our democratic country of India, representative government is a very important principle, right? So any action which severs this triple chain of accountability, this definitely undermines this principle of representative government. So this has to be definitely maintained. This triple chain of accountability has to be maintained, and this is given by our Supreme Court. So this phrase is important, so do remember this phrase. And this means that our civil servants are accountable to the cabinet is accountable to the legislature, and the legislature or the legislative assembly is periodically accountable to the electorate. And coming to the governance issue, the ordinance has created confusion and uncertainty among the civil service officers working in Delhi government departments. So whoever civil servants are working in the Delhi government departments, it has created a bit of confusion and an uncertain atmosphere within these civil servants. It has also affected the delivery of public services and welfare schemes in Delhi. So these are basically various issues with the ordinance that you can mention. So what are the consequences of the ordinance? So if you can see in the question that we have asked here in the mains practice question. So first part of the question, we are done with the first part, that is the issues. So we have seen what all issues we have with this particular ordinance, and coming to the consequences, what would be the possible consequences of this particular ordinance? Let's have a look at the consequences. It may create a constitutional crisis and a power tussle between the centre and Delhi government over the control of services in the national capital. So the entire issue, if you see, it is basically regarding the control over the central services, civil services that we have in the national capital territory of Delhi. So what would happen because of this? There would be definitely a power tussle between the centre and the elected government over there, that is our Delhi government. So it would create a constitutional crisis. So this can be one consequence of this ordinance, and it may undermine the autonomy and democracy of the Delhi government and the will of the people who elected it. Right. So the Delhi government, it is basically a elected government. So people have elected that particular government. That means according to the will of the people, they have elected that particular government. But what is happening after this ordinance? It is undermining the autonomy that is present. The whatever democracy and the autonomy is present with the Delhi government, which is elected by the people, this would be undermined. This is one more consequence that we have, and it may hamper effective administration and governance of Delhi. Right. So whatever administration is there in Delhi, this would be hampered with such ordinance. As a civil service officers, they may face uncertainty and confusion over whatever their roles they have, their responsibilities they have. There would be a bit of confusion and a uh, atmosphere of uncertainty that would prevail, and it may invite legal challenges and judicial scrutiny because the ordinance seems to violate the Supreme Court's judgment and Article 239AA of the Constitution. Right. So there would be also some judicial scrutiny, or it would definitely invite some legal challenges because it seems to violate the Supreme Court's judgment and also one article of the Constitution, which is Article 239AA of the Constitution. So it may violate these, so it may invite legal challenges and also it may invite judicial scrutiny. So what is this Article 239AA? So for now, do remember these are basically various consequences of the ordinance. We have seen the issues with the ordinance and the consequence with the of the ordinance, and here we have one important article, that is Article 239AA of the Constitution. So let's have a look at the article. So this was inserted into the Constitution by 69th Amendment Act of 1991. So this is the first and foremost thing that you have to remember. Article 239AA, this was later inducted into our Constitution. This was later inserted into the Constitution by making an amendment to the Constitution by 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1991. Through this amendment, Article 239AA was introduced into the Constitution. So what was the purpose? It is to give special status to Delhi following the recommendations of S. Balakrishnan committee that was set up to look into the demands for statehood for Delhi. So there were basically some demands for statehood for Delhi. So when there were demands from the people for statehood for Delhi, what happened? A particular committee was appointed. So what was that committee? It is S. Balakrishnan committee. So the committee name is also equally important. So try to remember the committee name and why was it appointed. So this is basically we are discussing right now is the background of this particular article. Why did we introduce this article into the Constitution by making an amendment to the Constitution? This is because there were demands for statehood from Delhi, from the people of Delhi. So what we have done, so there at that time a particular committee was appointed, that is S. Balakrishnan committee was appointed. So that was to look into the demands of statehoods for Delhi. So what happened at that time? To give special status to Delhi, this particular Article 239AA, it was introduced into the Constitution through 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1991. So it says that NCT of Delhi will have an administrator and a legislative assembly. So this is one important provision that we have to remember. There would be one administrator and also there would be a legislative assembly for NCT of Delhi, that is our National Capital Territory of Delhi. And subject to the provisions of the Constitution, the Legislative Assembly shall have power to make laws for whole or any part of NCT with respect to matters of state list or concurrent list, and so far as any such matter is applicable to union territories except on the subject of police, public order and land. So except police, public order and land, except these three, on remaining items in the state list or in the concurrent list, it can legislative assembly, it can make the laws for whole or any part of NCT. So if we take the NCT of Delhi, for entire Delhi or for a particular part of Delhi except police, public order and land, except these three, on remaining items in the state list and also on the remaining items in the state list and concurrent list, Delhi government, it can definitely, this legislative assembly can make laws for this in city of Delhi, right? So this was provided by this particular article, and further this article notes that LG has to either act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, or he is bound to implement the decision taken by the president on a reference being made by him, right? So what is the power of the legislative assembly according to article 239AA? It can make laws for whole or any part of NCT of Delhi on any item in the state list or concurrent list, except three things, that is police, public order and land. So coming to LG, this person, lieutenant governor, that person has to act either on the uh, aid and advice of the council of ministers, or that person would be bound to implement the decision taken by the president on a reference being made by him. Also, this particular article, it empowers the LG to refer a difference of opinion on any matter with the council of ministers to the president. So as we have discussed, according to this article, lieutenant governor has to act on the aid and advice of the council of ministers. So this uh, lieutenant governor, this person would act on the aid and advice of council of ministers. So definitely there would be a difference of opinion one or the other time. Every time there would not be a the opinion would not be the same. So in case of the difference of opinion between the lieutenant governor and the council of ministers, at that time this difference of opinion on any matter, this would be referred to the president. So this dual control between LG and the elected government, this definitely leads to a power tussle. So this is what we have to know regarding this particular article that is in news today. So hope you are clear with this particular article and the ordinance of 2023 and article 239AA. That's all for this video. Hope you have liked this video. Thank you.